Okay, so today we are going to talk about getting out of your comfort zone. Jiu-Jitsu develops confidence, and I think it helps over time to teach you how to kind of push yourself further and get out of your comfort zone. And that's difficult, I think, for everybody. I'm one of those people that's kind of set in my ways, and sometimes it's hard to change. And Jiu-Jitsu has been very good for me to kind of, push me out of my comfort zones. But I still have them. I still, even at black belt. So we're gonna have a discussion today about, what that looks like at black belt and what it looks like at white belt, and kind of like, how it's helped me over the years, and maybe hopefully it's helped you. Yeah. What are your comfort zones that you have a hard time breaking out of?
This right here. This is out of my comfort zone.
Doing videos, right? And honestly, for me too, like it took me a long time to get comfortable talking to a camera. And even before Jiu-Jitsu, I was big into theater. And I felt comfortable being on stage in front of people, but in a weird way, it's totally different because, at least in theater, like I had lines. I was always nervous still, but it was easier playing somebody else. Like I wasn't me, I was this character. And in a way, it kind of helped me a little bit to learn how to be comfortable speaking in front of crowds and everything like that, but it was still different. And then, after teaching for a long time, I became a lot more comfortable in front of crowds, speaking, doing public speaking or whatever, just teaching a regular class, partly because I got more comfortable with the material. I knew what I was doing, and I knew that what I taught was what was taught to me, and I knew it was effective, and I was confident in that. So it takes confidence to do that. Confidence in knowing the material, but then also confidence in learning how to relay it. There's two different skill sets there. But sitting down in front of a camera, I can't tell you how many times I've had to go back and stop, and it'd be a really funny highlight reel if you saw like how often I'd have to go back and say, crap, all right, do it again, let's do it again. So yeah, I get it, but yeah, are you more comfortable now? A little bit? No, it's okay.
Do you want my honest answer?
No, yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, not really, not yet.
That's all right, you'll get there.
So, you're a black belt.
Yes.
You're way more confident than me. What makes you uncomfortable now?
Whew. Well, not much, but that's kind of the benefit of Jiu-Jitsu. Like when you train a long time, you learn how to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. So actually, I'll give you an example. I had an experience at the Gracie Academy years ago. I was a young black belt. Gracie was also a young black belt at the time. I think he got his black belt a few years before me, but still younger. I've known him since he was a young kid, but didn't really get to know him until we were both black belts. We were older, and it was a crazy experience. It was not anything that I was like used to with the Gracie family. I think I told you when I came back, I showed up and I was there with my instructor Helson, his son Holland was a purple belt at the time. We're both getting ready for the World Championships. We're going to compete, and I go in and he shakes my hands, very nice and everything, but Jiu-Jitsu was a little bit different back then. You know what I mean? And it was before any of this keep it playful movement kind of came out, any of that stuff. But he invited me out of the mat. It's like, come on, let's train. And okay, cool. So I go out, and I didn't know what to expect. I just wanted to make sure that he understood that I wasn't there to try to prove anything, right? Really, all he knew, we had not sparred at all up until that point. All he knew was I was one of Helson's few black belts at the time, and I'd been around a long time. So he invited me out. He's like, okay, come on. He lays down like this. Come on. And so I'm like, okay, well, he wants to start in the guard. So I sit down on I come down on the knees. He's like, no, mount me. It's like, okay, all right. You know, and I wanted to make sure that he understood that I wasn't there to prove anything. I just wanted to train. So I had already planned in my head, I'm not going to try to really go hard or anything like that. And I knew that it was his academy. I didn't want to be disrespectful, but I also wanted to just train with him. You know, I wanted to feel his jiu-jitsu. And so that really surprised me because, man, you just didn't do that. You don't let somebody just mount you. You prevent it, right? And I learned so much from that. Of course, he escaped. You know, like I went to the mount, and you know, he's escaping. As he's escaping, I'm laughing, you know. And we had a great training session. Didn't really mention anything about it, but just, you know, that struck me so much that like he had the comfort level to let one of, had never trained with me before. He knew that I didn't suck, you know what I mean? But he had the confidence level in his own academy to say, come mount me, right? You try to finish me. And that hit me so hard because I would train with anybody. Didn't matter who it was, world champion, whatever, they're at the door. I'll train with anyone if they come in. But I wasn't gonna let them mount me, right? And I'll tell you, that really made a big difference for me. I came back and I let everybody mount me until I had that, you know, maybe I don't have the same confidence level he does in the mount position, or skill level, but my ability to survive is way better now. And I think that's one of the things that's powerful about jiu-jitsu is that it's not the ability to attack is not what gives you really true confidence in jiu-jitsu. It's your ability to survive. And if you find yourself, and I think people are afraid, I think this kind of leads into one of the things I wanted to talk about is that getting out of your comfort zone of always being in your best positions, right, can really be a problem because, you know, I'll say for probably a few years before that, if I didn't want to be mounted in the class, and if I wasn't doing a line drill where the person starts in the mount, it might happen once a year. Like if I was really being serious every time I rolled and I didn't want anybody to mount me, I might get mounted once a year, you know. But if that's the case, whoever it is that mounted me was probably really good. And man, I haven't been there in a year. Man, you know, how good am I going to perform? Am I going to be comfortable in the uncomfortable? So when you have a position that you are uncomfortable with, you got to keep going into it. It's difficult, I know, but you got to, you know, and it may be just walking in the door, right? I mean, that may be your comfort zone, right? It might not be the mount position. It may be just showing up to class, right? Yeah. Like we were talking about this earlier, right? Like you don't feel...
It took me, 19 years to come to an actual class?
To an actual class, yes. And you know, people talk about it all the time. Why is a white belt on the, you know, on the screen with the black belt? Well, number one, she's my wife for many, many years. Most of the time, and you were pregnant for a lot of our marriage, so now you actually have the time and the capability to train. But, you know, like coming to a regular class wasn't something that you really were interested in doing. Took a long time. And that's okay, right? Everybody is on a different level of comfort. And, you know, we've got people that have come in here that were Navy SEALs, right? And their confidence level is way off the charts. It's on one end of the spectrum, and they're fully expecting, like, bring it on. I kicked my butt, I'm okay, like, gung-ho, let's do it, right? Then you have people that we've worked with, you know, we worked with a group of women who were trafficked, right? Victims of human trafficking. And their comfort level might have been like in the back chair, just sitting, not even watching anything, you know? And little by little, they would get more and more comfortable, more confident. And I think the room has to be, and the instructors and everybody have to be kind of like aware and understanding that everybody's comfort level is different. And you know, your comfort level may be different than somebody else's, but the only way to truly progress and push yourself further is to really go deep inside and push yourself to that next level. So if it's, you know, coming on the mat and just being there, or just, you know, trying out a class or whatever. We had a gentleman who just came in the other day. I forget what the situation was.
He came in years ago and sat in the parking lot and was nervous and decided not to come in. And then...
Like 10 years ago?
Yeah. Then, you know, years down the road decided, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to show up and came in and took class and found out, hey, I can handle this.
And that's awesome, right? And hopefully that they have an environment where they can come in and they feel comfortable challenging themselves little by little. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the most beneficial things that we can gain from Jiu-Jitsu is just learning how to take that next step little by little. What else, Mandy? What else is out of your comfort zone?
How long
difficult?
do you have?
Okay, just give me a big one.
I don't like asking people to roll. Unless I know, like I've gotten, and that's another thing, like I'm getting there, baby steps, like with my friends, no big deal. But somebody I haven't rolled with before, that's a tough one. I would rather them come ask me, and then I'm fine, but especially being a woman, a lot of times men aren't necessarily, they feel like it should be my choice to ask them, and
they're afraid. Yeah, we talked about that in our unspoken rules video. Sometimes men are afraid, especially her, because she's my wife, right? And sometimes they put on the kid gloves and they're like, oh, I don't know how hard I should roll with Mandy or try to catch her, and you know, maybe that's challenging their comfort zone, right? What else? I mean, you know, like, is it? Do you feel better when you come with a friend?
oh,
right?
for sure, yeah.
Because you know you have somebody
Right.
there
Right.
to train with, you know.
Especially on new techniques, or like in a class where you're learning something new, it's always easier for me to have a person that I'm comfortable with, because you feel ridiculous sometimes.
Right.
You're like, oh shoot, wait, I'm supposed to do what, where,
Sure.
and yeah.
How do you like warm-ups, Mandy?
It's my favorite thing.
You would never skip a class,
Never.
right? Or
Nope.
come late.
I would never show up late.
I think some people do, because you know, especially at the beginning, I think they're really nervous about. I think we forget sometimes how nervous people can be at the beginning. I know how nervous I was, at least I think I do, but that's it's like 26 years ago. Hard for me to really kind of put myself back into their shoes, but I do my best, and I know we all do here. We do our best to go out of our way to make sure that the person feels comfortable, because, man, I think the shrimp crawl has probably cost us more students than anything. Like, people, they've already gotten over the fear of like getting their butt kicked by walking in the door. They just don't want to look stupid,
Yeah.
you know? But trust me, like everybody in the room, if you're new, if you haven't started jiu-jitsu yet, trust me, everybody that has come in, for the most part, besides those, you know, those elite people that I was talking about before, they're uncomfortable about it too. Like they were, it's just a weird movement, you know? Nobody wants to look stupid, right? So just come in and do it.
Should we talk about the sideways break fall video?
The sideways break fall. No, what?
Do you remember?
Oh, where I
When-
dropped you on, yeah.
No, not that.
Oh,
No, when you were filming a little promo thing and it was a fundamentals class, brand new guy, first
Yes.
day in,
off time.
front and center, doing the sideways break fall, which is something I am terrified to do in front of people.
It was his first day.
And he did awesome, and he did it perfectly right, but yeah.
Just off time. Everybody else was like in motion in time. So, yeah, sorry about that. It's on Instagram. You can check it out. One thing that I've noticed, especially like blue belt, purple belt, even brown belt sometimes, or even black belt, where I've noticed folks who stifle their own development because they get into a comfort zone. They get into their comfort zone and they're afraid sometimes to spar with the tough guy who's like a belt lower than them. They're afraid to get tapped out by somebody of a lower belt level. And that is, man, if you find yourself with that fear, tackle it now, because you're going to hold yourself back. I've seen people do it. I've seen their growth stifled. That's a big one. And I've seen a lot of folks really hold themselves back and not improve the way that they could because they're hiding from certain roles, right? And I think at white belt, it's almost like there's less pressure because you're a white belt. There's no expectation.
Everybody can beat me.
Right. Like I remember being a brown belt and being submitting a black belt in a competition, like, yeah, I felt good. But if I got beat by the black belt, I was supposed to lose, right? And, you know, and I've been beaten as a black belt by lower belts too, and that sucks. It really does. But it made me better. It pushed me further, and it made me realize, like, I didn't enjoy it at all. Like, it was a big, hard hit to my ego, but I got over it. And, you know, little by little, I want to continue getting better. I want to keep challenging myself, and I want to challenge everybody else. And for me, as an instructor, one of the biggest fears a lot of instructors have is that they don't want to look bad in front of their students, right? And it took me a long time to get to that point. Like, I'd be really ashamed if I got tapped out by a lower belt or a visiting student or something like that in front of my students, until I got to a point where I looked at my instructors, especially Dr. Hudson, and I got to a certain point where I remember seeing him as an aging black belt, still continuing to train with a humble mindset, and tapping more than he did in years past to, you know, like folks like myself. And when it started to get to a point where I could submit him, my admiration for him did not go away. It only improved. So if you're in that scenario, right, and that purple belt to black belt area, man, you just gotta get over it. Like, I know it's not easy, but come on, I'm speaking to the higher belts now. You just suck it up, get over it, right? Like, I can be a little more gentle with the white belts, but come on, you've been doing this long enough. Train with the tough rules, right? I mean, and, you know, expose yourself, because the only way you're going to get better is to challenge yourself little by little, right? And sometimes, especially at the beginning at white belt, and I think that's why it's nice to hear the perspective of not just a white belt, but a female white belt. You know, you can do it little by little. You don't have to go full on, you know.
Sorry, it
Yes.
just made me, I heard the voice in my head from.
You can do it. Yes, you can. And if you haven't started jiu-jitsu yet, do it, right? Like that gentleman we talked about earlier, right?
Just show up.
Yes, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. It's gone. Second best time is today. Do it. That's all we got. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll see you soon.